Hey everybody. So I'm going to continue this month with the theme I started with my last Satchel video of showing players who had had time in the Negro Leagues and in Major League Baseball. It is, after all, Black History Month. I think Dan's Vintage PCs collection. I nailed the title, right, Dan? I feel like he's on to the same thing. He's going for super collectors. He hasn't said it. It's February. He hasn't mentioned February, and that it's Black History Month. But and I didn't either in my Satchel video. But yeah, I think that this month I'm going to be highlighting players who are former Negro Leaguers. So there. Mangini gave me a shout out. I have a couple new subs because Mangini gave me a new shout out. I've probably more than a couple. The Mangini might. And I just say this. I mean, this is just a little advice for Mangini. I don't want to be unappreciative, but I think maybe mention me more. I think if it works for me, it's good for you. That's what Dougie K would say. It's good if it's good business for me. It's good business for everybody. We'll move on. We're going to talk about Luke Easter. So he is one of the more fascinating, mostly untold stories about a Negro League player who spent some time in the major leagues. From 2-ish years ago, one of my first vintage videos was a profile on Luke Easter. It might have been my first. I don't even know. So I've done a profile on Luke Easter, but I want to talk about him. Luke Easter was born around 1915-ish. Let's get some cards here. Sweetness, 1952 Bowman. He has some amazing cards. Really, really sweet cards here. He came of age in St. Louis. St. Louis didn't have a Negro League team. So he could not, he was a talented baseball player, but the best he could do in his area was play for a semi-pro team. They were called the Giants. And he played along with another significant, mostly untold story about Sam Jethroe to be featured soon. 1953 Bowman. Sweet, sweet card. Luke Easter was a big guy, powerful hitter. He was barnstorming with Sam Jethroe. They were in a vehicle, and they got into an accident, and Luke Easter fractured his leg, which is an injury that continued to ail him throughout his career. Shortly after that, he was enlisted in World War II. And when he came back, he was kind of starting out fresh with being recognized by the Negro Leagues. And I think he tried out for the Kansas City Monarchs, and he finally found a home with the Homestead Grays. His last year with the Homestead Grays, he led the Negro Leagues in OPS plus. I think they go hand in hand. He led the league, at least for a single season, they go hand in hand. I think then it was a matter of Major League Baseball recognizing him and bringing him in. And he was brought on to the Cleveland Indians. He was brought on at the age of 34, but he really didn't get any playing time until the age of 35. And this is with his leg ailments and all this stuff. He still whacked home runs at an amazing pace. I've heard people compare him to Babe Ruth, just in terms of how hard and how far he'd hit the ball. And he was hitting in the high 20s up to 30 From age 35, 36, 37, those 3 years, he was a big power hitter. And this is a guy who did not have the opportunity. I'm showing this card twice. I have two of them. This is a guy who did not have the opportunity to play in the bigs of either Negro Leagues or Major Leagues because of where he was located regionally. He was located where there was a Major League team, but there was not a Negro League team. So he is a huge story of what could have been. His story is mostly a happy one, but there's some tragedy there too. I mean, there's the beginning of his career where he had the lack of opportunity, where he was in the majors, not until his mid-30s, hitting home runs at a pace where a lot of comps to people, other players who had hit like him at that age, are Hall of Famers. There is a really interesting article about him and these comps that I had referred to 2 years ago, and I'll again link that in this video so you can read what I'm trying to parse and remember mentally in more detail if you're interested. Super fascinating. I encourage you to. The end of his story is sad. In the job he had after being a baseball player, he was bringing payroll to the bank in 1979. $5,000 he had with him of payroll to bring to the bank. He was held up by a bunch of guys who asked him to hand over the money, and he refused, and they shot and killed him. It's a very sad but very fascinating story. And to me, it's just kind of amazing that that more people don't know about him and talk about him. So let's give it up to Luscious Luke Easter. I didn't make that name up. That'd be weird. Anyway, check out the article if you want the extended version and more accurate version of his past. It's down below. Right over there. I think I'm pointing to it. But since I was talking about him, let's focus on a couple of his coolest cards. I didn't mention it. This is his rookie card. Pretty sweet, 1951 Bowman. This would be his rookie card too. 1951 Topps. This is just such an amazing looking card to me. It's just so freaking cool. This is a card that can be had for very little, and I think it's a significant player. Of course, this 1952 Topps classic set, and just in this shows his previous year's home runs as 27 home runs. And I'll give you a little closer look at this guy. Another stellar card. Really, really nice. And the classic. All right. Bye, everybody.